All right, thank you for your patience. I apologize. We are now recording this, so you'll have access to this after the webinar. So now let us begin. I know normally we ask for you to tweet along. Because of the nature of our talking points today, we're not asking you, we do not want you live tweeting out sensitive information about what we're saying about the Bridge Act or the Affordable Care Act. But feel free to give shout outs to, if you're following us on Twitter, to the staff who are presenting today. And always, you can also let your legislator know over Twitter that you're excited to see them next week. So today we'll be discussing how to have an effective lobby meeting. Then we'll be hearing about the Bridge Act, and then we will have a briefing on the state of healthcare. We'll be talking throughout the webinar and answering questions towards the end. And again, if you do have a problem with your tech or anything else, feel free to chat with us during the webinar as well. But we will be unmuting all the phones and taking your questions in real time live. All right, so first we're going to begin with Kat and Emma talking about in-district visits.
Okay, hi everyone, this is Emma from Grassroots Mobilization Team. So the first thing we'll talk about is the importance of building that in-district relationship. Now let's just get first things first. You most likely will be meeting with your congressperson staff member during these visits rather than your actual congress member. This is totally normal, and these lobby visits are just as effective as if you are actually meeting with your senator or representative. Because it is the staff member's job to take meetings with constituents and relay all they learn from you, the constituent, back to the congressperson. One good thing about an in-district visit is that you are in, your home space, your community. So you can learn about your members, their priorities and goals, invite them into your spaces. Maybe, I don't know, you volunteer at a soup kitchen every Saturday. You could invite your Congress member to meet up with you on Saturday. Who knows? They could actually show. Engage non-traditional advocates. What we mean by this is people might not be able to make a trip all the way to DC for a lobby visit. For example, if you're having a meeting about the importance of preserving Medicaid, you could invite someone who has serious health issues and who relies on Medicaid for their healthcare needs. A trip to their congressperson's in-district office would be a lot easier for this kind of person with health issues than making a trip all the way out to DC. And we cannot stress enough the importance of building that relationship with your in-district office, because those offices communicate regularly with the Congress member's DC office. They share information about a variety of topics, including lobby visits with constituents. Based on how well the two offices communicate and what kind of impression you leave behind, the DC staff may even know your name. A successful visit with your member's in-district office can lead to a successful visit in the future with your member's DC staff if you should ever make it to DC for a lobby meeting. Okay, let's talk power analysis. What we mean about power analysis is we want you to consider certain factors that could be advantageous about the member whose office you're visiting. For example, how will the member you're visiting view this bill? If you're going to go in and talk about the Bridge Act, you should know, has your member been supportive of DACA in the past or some other kind of immigration-focused topic? It's also good to know your member's party and if they are a sponsor or co-sponsor of whatever bill you're lobbying on. Is this person a person of faith? Do you have that shared faith connection you could talk about? It's also good to know if your Congress member is on what committees they are on. For example, if your representative is on the Judiciary Committee or the Homeland Security and Governmental Affairs Committee, that would be good to know if you're going to talk about the Bridge Act, since both these committees deal with immigration legislation. Okay, storytelling. Storytelling is such a powerful tool. It's one we especially love at Network, if you all are familiar with Sister Simone and her love of stories. When you share a personal story about yourself or someone you know, you're really able to directly communicate why your perspective on the bill you're discussing is important. Having that personal story of how Medicaid has helped you or someone close to you cuts across all that detached data and gets to the real heart of the matter, which is people. Of course, corporate lobbyists can come in with all of their facts and data, but we have the real impact of policies with our stories. This kind of perspective is new and so important for your Congress member and their staff to hear. While a member of the staff may be able to argue about the data or dispute, maybe where you got certain analyses or facts, they can't dispute your experience, right? Your truth. All right, when it's time to prepare for your lobby visit, we really recommend going to a lobby meeting in a group. Of course, you can certainly go by yourself. That's no problem at all. But it does make it a little easier if you go with a partner or a small group. So when you get ready for your meeting, make sure to divide up what each person will say. Prepare any materials you will need. In this case, we have the talking points and leave behinds for you already, which hopefully everyone received in today's earlier email. If for some reason you did not receive the talking points and leave behinds, please email our info account and we'll make sure you get those materials. And again, remember, this meeting is just a conversation. With a little practice and preparation, there's really no need to worry. Totally doable. All right, the last thing I'm going to talk about is our lobby planning and reporting sheet. This is an excellent tool and document that we like our members to use when they go for a lobby visit, because it just helps break down the meeting of what people will say, what person you're meeting with, logistics such as the person's name, the office, the time of the appointment, the bill you're lobbying on, etc. And we will make sure this document is sent out in our follow-up email tomorrow.
Hi all, this is Kat with the Grassroots Mobilization Team. Now I'm going to shift gears to talk about the day of the actual lobby visit. So on the day of your lobby visit, you want to be sure that you and your team are outside of the office at least 10 minutes before the scheduled meeting. With that extra 10 minutes, you're able to ensure that everyone's on the same page and everyone's clear on their assigned roles. You'll make sure that all of your phones are silenced, and if you have any alarms, make sure that those are turned off as well. You'll take a moment to review everyone's roles, and then you'll have one person introduce the group at the front desk. So when you do that, you want to make sure that you include that you are a network member, the name of the staffer that you're meeting with, and the scheduled meeting time. If you were asked to sign in, you want to make sure that you're using the address that you're registered to vote with. Elected officials want to hear from their constituents, and so it adds power if they know that you hold the keys to keeping them elected. Right before the meeting commences, be sure to ask how much time you have. It makes a world of a difference if it's 10 minutes versus 30 minutes. Like Emma pointed out in an earlier slide, you want to prepare for a conversation. But by the same token, it helps that there's a general sense of what you'd like to come up during your meeting. So this slide kind of just depicts a sample of a typical lobby meeting order. So first, we'll start off with a brief introduction. Let the staff member know that you are a constituent. The next step requires some research. If you know beforehand that this particular member has lobbied against a particular issue that you're bringing forth, it helps to show that you've found common ground before. So this could look like, I am thankful for Senator X for taking leadership in expanding the earned income tax credit. Then you'll want to introduce the issues that you're lobbying on. This looks like, today I'm here to talk about the threat of repealing the ACA without a sound replacement. Use your faith, especially if you've done your research, and this is an area that shows common ground. So you could say something to the effect of, my faith teaches me that we are responsible for the 100%, and so I believe that access to quality, affordable health care for all is a fundamental human right. Then you want to ask about the member's position. Just because they have voted in favor or against what you are proposing does not mean that they haven't changed their views. Politicians change their mind all of the time, which I'm sure we all know that. So be sure to ask up front rather than relying on some assumption. If they are not in agreement, ask why. Perhaps they have a perspective that you may not be aware of, but be sure to also share your perspective as well. Then you want to share a personal story. Why does this matter to you? Like Emma also pointed out, stories are things that no one can refute the validity of. Then you want to respond to any pushback or concerns. If you are asked a question that you don't have the answer to, it is okay to say that you don't know. Then you want to repeat your ask and share all of your leave behind documents, which we already have prepared for you. Then take a picture. As social media becomes more popular, members of Congress are more inclined to show that they are engaging with their constituents. So this is a perfect way of showing that. Throughout the meeting, be sure to keep in mind that you are really working to build relationships. So you want to make the staffer feel as though you are a reliable source for in the community. So feel free to ask, how can we support you? If you work for a nonprofit agency that provides direct service, could you arrange for the member to come for a site visit? Could staff sign up for your newsletter? When will the member next be in town? Could you arrange a time to meet with the member specifically? These are all things you want to keep in mind. And at the end of the visit, you want to exchange business cards so that way you can kind of ensure a way of following up. Just some quick tips about tone. You want to avoid direct antagonism in your criticism. You want to be polite yet firm. This is possible. You can explain your position in a way that's firm but also respectful of different views. Ask serious questions, and like I previously mentioned, don't be afraid to say that you don't know or I can get back to you. The worst thing you can do is make up some statistic or alternative fact because that will diminish your credibility. And also make sure that your ask is clear and concise. After the meeting, make sure that if you were in a group that you debrief with that group, find out what went well, what didn't go well, send a thank you email. So this is also key to make sure that you get that business card so you can follow up. And in that email, you want to also include maybe something that you might have talked about in the meeting and repeat that ask. This will be the time to include any information that you might have said you didn't know or that you'd get back to them on. This would be the time to do that. And again, you want to use social media to spread the word about your specific meeting.
All right. Thank you so much, Emma and Kat. I just want to say, this is Meg again, I just want to say a brief word about sharing what you've heard at your meeting. Our lobby visit report form that Emma will be sending you tomorrow does have space for the note taker to write down, like, what is the member of Congress saying, what do you think might influence them, and have a little bit of analysis. We don't necessarily need that exact form, but if someone could send us a summary, this is so crucial. As members of Network, you are participating actually in a nationwide strategy. I'm sure a lot of you are aware of that, as healthcare is not just Network's issue, but unions and other organizations, health advocacy groups, everyone across the country is going to be doing in-district visits this week. Town halls, different ways of participating about their concerns about the Affordable Care Act. So when we hear from you what your member of Congress said, we're sharing with our coalitions here in DC. And this is how we know if we're moving the needle on this issue. This is how then our lobbyists, whether it's Laura Munoz and Laura Peralta going up and talking about immigration and the Bridge Act, or Lucas and Laura Peralta going up to the Hill to talk about the Affordable Care Act, they can say, our members in Colorado had a meeting in district last week, and this is what we've been told, right? We are all working together to build these relationships and build power. So it's really important that we know that what you've heard. So if you can, my email's here, molson@networklobby.org. and I will gladly collect your minutes, your notes from this meeting, and send them around with our staff. Especially if this is your first time lobbying, if you want to debrief with me about how did the meeting go, what did you learn, or if you have questions, just was this normal, or if you felt like a staffer or something maybe was being a little hostile, if you just want to check in, I am more than happy to chat with you. And if there are questions, especially that maybe you weren't able to answer during your visit, let me know that as well, and I'm sure that our government relations team can provide you with that extra data, or how many children are on a certain plan in your state that maybe we don't know that you don't know right now, or that we haven't provided for you yet. So yes, we're really looking forward to your visits, and we're also really looking forward to the sacred gossip, as Sister Simone calls it, that you share with us after your visit. Now I am passing it over to Laura Munoz, our Government Relations Associate, and Laura will be discussing the current state of play of immigration in this administration and Congress, talking specifically about the Bridge Act, and then sharing with you the ask. So as Kat was explaining on going through the lobby visit, the ask, of course, is kind of the crescendo, the most important part of the meeting, and so we will be giving you that ask this meeting. So, all right. So I'm passing it over to Laura.
Great. Thank you, Meg. Hi, everyone. So I will be covering DACA recipient-related information, also talking about the Bridge Act and the ask. So President Trump, while he was on the campaign, said that he was rescinding DACA on day one, and so far that has not happened. So that has been good news on the part that I think he knows better than to mess with something that we have worked so hard to gain. But with that being said, he did give himself a 4-week timeline to act on DACA, and there have been mixed articles and reports pertaining to what exactly he is going to do. He himself said that DACA recipients were going to be very happy with what he was going to do to the program, but to this day, nothing has been happening. So we are currently in that week 3 of the 4-week timeline that he gave himself, and have not seen anything from the administration. The program itself is still ongoing. USCIS is continuing to issue work permits and renewals. That has been advised against to DACA recipients, but USCIS has not stopped the program. So again, that is a good sign for the recipients. You can go ahead and change the thing. The current state of play continued is Vox, a news article was leaked, an executive order that was rescinding DACA, and the executive order read that it would allow the work permit to expire with no option of renewal. It would take away the option of advanced parole. Advanced parole has been able to allow DACA recipients to travel abroad for work, for study, and for cases of emergency if a family member was passing away or extremely ill. So that would be taken away immediately. And those DACA recipients currently abroad, while the executive order is signed, would probably not be able to come back in. So that's a very scary situation if you're a DACA recipient who is abroad with the advanced parole provision. The leaked executive order has not been verified or signed. So like I said, it was only leaked. We have not seen anything from the administration even acknowledging the leaked article. So we can't say for sure that that is the language that would be included in any executive order, or that that will be moving forward. And we are at a point where the reality is that we really don't know what is going to happen to the DACA program and its recipients. So we're doing what we can with the limited information that we have, which is not a lot. So the Bridge Act was actually introduced in the 114th Congress right before the recess by Senator Dick Durbin from Illinois. The Bridge Act stands for Bar Removal of Individuals Who Dream and Grow Our Economy, hence the acronym. It is bipartisan legislation that provides a temporary relief to current DACA recipients and those that are eligible to apply. So if you have DACA, the provision would still be in place for you for 3 years, and if you're eligible and up to this point haven't applied, you would be able to. It's a 3-year provisional status from the date that it's enacted, and with the Bridge Act, DACA recipients' information would also be protected from ICE and from CBP, which is extremely important, and that's something that currently is not in place. So DACA recipients' information is basically owned by the federal government at any point that could be used for other purposes, but the Bridge Act would protect that information. And that information that is currently stored couldn't be used for enforcement proceedings, and individuals couldn't be referred to ICE. So that is new to the program that currently, the program currently does not have that, and that would be very beneficial to the recipients. And the biggest part of the Bridge Act is that it sets a deadline of 3 years for Congress to propose and pass long-lasting comprehensive immigration reform, which is what we really need. By no means is the Bridge Act a permanent solution. It's only temporary, and it's very important that that is stressed in your meetings. So in the Senate, the bill that was introduced for the Bridge Act, the number is S128. So that is what you can refer to in the Senate when you meet with your senator's office in district when you're referring to the Bridge Act. It was introduced by Senator Graham from South Carolina on January 12th, and the original co-sponsors, like I said, was Senator Durbin, who originally introduced it in the last Congress, Senator Flake, Senator Harris, Senator Murkowski, Senator Schumer, and those were all original co-sponsors. And the newest sponsors that it has that has been added is Senator Nelson from Florida. They are working to try to get sponsorships in the Senate, so that's why this list isn't as long as you will see in the House version, which Maggie can go to. In the House, the bill number is HR 496, and again, you can reference this, and you should reference it when you go and meet with your representatives. It was introduced by Representative Kaufman, who will be having meetings in district in Colorado, and he introduced it the same day, January 12th. And the original co-sponsors were a lot more. That was very good to see from California, Florida, Illinois, and additional co-sponsors have been added. Really, the delegation from Washington has kind of come up together and put their names on there, which is really great to see a state coming together to support it. And then, of course, from Texas and from Nebraska. So we're seeing way more sponsors in the Bridge Act in the House, but that's because of the strategy that I'm about to announce in the next slide. So the network strategy right now with the Bridge Act reflects the reality, again, that we don't know what is the future of DACA. It could be rescinded at any moment. So our strategy right now is to meet with Republican offices to gain sponsorships for the bill, and this is in the House and the Senate, not knowing what is going to happen to the program in such an unstable administration. Is very important that we have sponsorships for the bill in both chambers. So our ask for the Bridge Act, as it pertains to network, is to ask your member of Congress to support and pass the Bridge Act to ensure that DACA recipients are protected in the unstable administration that we are currently in.
All right, thank you so much, Laura. I am now going to pass it over to Lucas, who will be discussing healthcare. So Lucas will be bringing us up to date on where things are, outlining what is under threat in terms of what's in the Affordable Care Act as well as Medicaid, and then also be giving you, there are 2 asks for this one.
Great, thanks Meg, and thanks to all of you for joining us on the webinar today and for getting engaged. We really appreciate that, and we're relying on you to join us in this effort. So first, some context for where we are in healthcare. The Affordable Care Act since 2010 has brought us a lot closer to the healthcare system that we want to see. Speaking from Network and our inspiration from Catholic social justice, we see healthcare as a right. And we see the Affordable Care Act, or the ACA for short, as a step towards that. But of course, we also realize that many still have difficulty getting the care that they need. But the ACA has helped 20 million people get access to affordable quality health coverage, and it's also brought us to a record low uninsured rate, the lowest percentage of people in our country without health care insurance in our nation's history. And where we are right now is a time where we could turn around and go in the wrong direction. So I'm sure you've all heard from the news recently, but President Trump and the Republican Congress have been rushing to repeal the Affordable Care Act through kind of an arcane budget procedure known as reconciliation that would allow them to repeal the law with only 50 votes in the Senate. They're rushing to repeal the Affordable Care Act for politics, but their problem is that they have bad policy or no policy to support their effort. And with their politicking with people's lives, the Nonpartisan Congressional Budget Office has estimated that up to 32 million people could lose health insurance if the Affordable Care Act is repealed. And that's more than people who have gained from the Affordable Care Act. So this is really kind of a system-wide shock that could happen. It would provide a huge tax cut for the 1%, but for everybody else, whether they have insurance through Medicaid or through the Affordable Care Act exchanges, it could make insurance a lot less affordable and lower quality for many. And I think something else that's at stake here is really kind of the society that we want to be. It's really about, are we going to be a country where we take care of people, where we're our sisters and brothers keepers, or are we going to be a society that leaves the sick, people experiencing poverty out in the cold? As I said, there's kind of a rush to tear down the system that we have now. But fortunately, something has slowed this down, and that's people like you who are making their voices heard across the country. There's some pictures up there from Denver, Boston, and Indianapolis, but there's hundreds more like it. People are speaking out. There's been a lot of activity around town halls, and I know next week during recess, a lot of members of Congress are going to be holding events. So in addition to an in-district visit next week, if you want to reach out to your member of Congress and ask about events, town halls, that's also a welcome action you could take. So as I said, President Trump wanted to repeal the Affordable Care Act on day one, but the fact is that they have not been able to do that, and that's because of our efforts. And the fact that we're still having this conversation is in itself a win. So that's good. The longer this is drawn out and the more public pressure that we put on the administration and Congress, the more likely that people are to keep their health care. So in January, that was kind of like phase one of the effort, where we really had to stop a repeal of the Affordable Care Act without any sort of replacement. So our message for that was no repeal without a suitable replacement. Don't play politics with people's lives. And that message has really worked. A lot of Republican and all the Democratic senators have come out and said we should not repeal the Affordable Care Act without a replacement in place. So that's really been a victory. We're not out of the woods yet on that. We still have to keep that message strong because there are some who want to repeal it as fast as possible without much concern for the human lives that would be affected. But now we're kind of into phase 2 where Congress is trying to come up with some equitable replacement plans or some replacement plans, and we really have to hold them accountable that those replacement plans are equitable and really a true replacement. So far, every plan that's been introduced has been really bad, a lot of problems, and not nearly a suitable, sound replacement for what the Affordable Care Act has done. So a lot of people would still lose coverage from the plans that have been proposed so far. But for kind of the ideas that members of Congress are talking about, we have a lot of information in our talking points sheet, which I think Meg can bring up right now for the screen if it's possible. But if you look on the second page of the talking points for healthcare, we show the buzzwords. People talk about health savings accounts, high-risk pools, allowing insurers to sell across state lines. And a lot of these ideas have been tried. A lot of them haven't worked very well. And really, in general, they are helpful for people who have money. You know, health savings accounts will help people with a lot of money who make over $100,000 a year, who have the resources to put aside money into a health savings account. But for people who are kind of struggling to get by, there are no replacement for the quality and affordable insurance that the Affordable Care Act has provided. So we just provide those resources about the buzzwords and the replacements just so you're all kind of aware that those words could come up in a visit, but they're not adequate replacements for the Affordable Care Act. So kind of the political situation right now is that in the House, there's pressure from the far right members of the House, the Tea Party or the Freedom Caucus, to rush a repeal without any replacement. But kind of more moderate voices in the House are urging that some version of replacement gets put in place before the repeal happens. And hopefully in the Senate, they would not support a repeal without a replacement, especially with our pressure. So now I'm going to talk about what's really under threat. There's no, the Republican caucus hasn't coalesced around one specific way forward, which for us is a good thing. But we've heard kind of intel or rumors about what they might finally put forth as their plan. And from what we've heard, Medicaid expansion could be on the chopping block under the repeal bill. This is kind of a part of the Affordable Care Act that has expanded Medicaid and given over 13 million Americans access to affordable health insurance. I think the good thing about that is a lot of the states that have benefited from Medicaid expansion have Republican members of Congress. So if you're advocating in a state that's expanded Medicaid, be sure to mention that and the good things that have come from Medicaid expansion. Some other things that are under threat under the Affordable Care Act are the premium subsidies that have helped people afford health insurance, and also the mandated essential benefits that came with the Affordable Care Act. Basically, if those are taken away, health insurance could become a lot less affordable for people who are kind of lower middle class, and also it could become a lot worse quality. And then the other threat, the other category of threat is Medicaid. There's also been rumors that the repeal could include a structural change to the Medicaid program, which would seriously harm people at or near the poverty line in our country. So you'll hear terms like block grant or per capita cap of Medicaid, and those are two proposals that are being considered by the Republicans in Congress. There's more information about them on the second page on the bottom half of the talking point sheet. But basically, they are just another word for cuts to Medicaid, which would make states have to face really impossible and frankly immoral decisions for a country as wealthy as ours, such as should we insure children or should we insure the elderly? Who should we kick off this program? And speaking from a perspective of faith, it's just really abhorrent and immoral to be considering cutting this program and taking health insurance away from people. So we really need advocates like you to be a moral voice here and stick up for Medicaid, and also urge for the Affordable Care Act. So that brings us to our asks. The first is do not repeal the Affordable Care Act unless you have a replacement that improves coverage, affordability, and quality. And we want you to show us the replacement. So they're continuing to rush ahead, trying to move forward the process of repealing it. But we want our members of Congress to show us a replacement before they take the current health system and mess with it. And then number two, do not turn Medicaid funding into a block grant or a per capita cap. And like I just said, this would be an immoral policy really targeted at people experiencing poverty. So one last note is that in these visits, you might hear that the Affordable Care Act and Medicaid are broken, but this is just simply not true. It's a talking point. It's meant to mislead. And for the millions of people who are benefiting from these programs and really enjoying their right to health care because of these programs, there's nothing broken about it. They can certainly be fixed and repaired, and we would support those changes wholeheartedly. But for that, we need to get to a substantive conversation where it's not rushing towards repeal, but it's how do we work together to improve the system that we have now. So I'm confident that the pressure that we can put on members of Congress during this recess with your help, that we can really kind of stop repeal from happening, cutting Medicaid from happening, and really prevent this from happening. So this is a time to put forward our faithful moral vision of the healthcare system that we want to see, and really the country that we want to be.
All right, thank you, Lucas. And now is the time where we have questions. So I am going to unmute everybody. There are 22 of you on the call, so I will try and moderate. I know this is a little dangerous, but I do think it's important, since you are going the extra distance and making these visits next week, that you have an opportunity to speak to us directly. So, all right. Are people unmuted? Oh no. What the heck? I had an unmute button. All right, I'm slowly unmuting people. My apologies. Oh no, where did that go? All.
Are you able to?
I am. Yes.
There it
Yes.
is.
It's just they're making me, instead of being able to hit the all button, they're making me do you one by one. I am sorry. Okay. Slowly, slowly, we are all coming. Janet, Felipe, Mary Shaw. All right. What? Oh, one all the way up to the top. Okay, great. Oh, and some of you, so Anne Whitlock, there was an audio pin that you had to enter, and what does that say? Oh, and Sally Ann, I am unmuting you. Okay, well, I'm trying to. Okay, the majority of people are unmuted. So, questions?
Yes. I was trying to open the documents that you had for, like, talking points, and able to do that. And I also wondered how soon you might be sending the PowerPoint, because I am going to be meeting with what's called a Women's March huddle tomorrow night. They want me to talk about contacting legislators, etc. And I think your points would be excellent to share with them.
Great. So you were asking about the talking points first, right? The two handouts? Okay.
I could open the Bridge Act, but I couldn't open the ACA one.
All right. And could you just identify, please, and this goes for everyone, who's speaking right now?
My name is Sister Sally Ann Brickner. I'm with the Sisters of St. Agnes in Fond du Lac, Wisconsin.
Great. Thanks, Sister Sally. So I'll make sure Emma can resend it. Did anybody else have problems opening documents? Okay. So, so Sister Sally, I'll make sure that Emma sends this out to you again. And in terms of the recording, right after this, we will get the recording. We'll have the link prepared, and the link will be sent out to you tomorrow, along with our About Network handout. Which, especially if this is your first time meeting your legislator, it's really good to bring our About Network one or two pager that has our Mend the Gap principles on it, because they probably have never heard of us, most likely, and this will be a good introduction. And then also along with that will be the lobby preparation sheet. So you will get those three things tomorrow morning. Okay?
Slides? Will you send the slides?
Yes, the slides are coming. Yes.
Okay. And we already here in Fond du Lac had a meeting with the district director. Already. So I'm in the process of arranging another meeting.
Hey, whose district director did you meet with?
Representative Glenn Grothman from Wisconsin District 6.
Okay, that's fantastic. Thank you so much.
No, you're welcome.
All right. Other questions?
I have a question.
Yes, and who is this, please?
Frank.
Okay, Frank.
Venice, Florida.
Yeah.
I've heard Paul Ryan and some of them talk about universal access. And it sounds like a code for what? And how should we respond to that?
This is a question for Lucas.
That's a great point, Frank. So we like to distinguish between access and coverage. A lot of times when Paul Ryan talks about universal access, he means access if you can afford it. And it's really kind of cynical wordsmithing because, for example, preventative care like a colonoscopy could cost $2,000. Now, Paul Ryan would like to give maybe a tax credit if you itemize your taxes, and then you could use that. And if you can afford it, you have access to that service. But if you can't afford that, then you can't get that service, and it's really no substitute for coverage. So we like to remind members of Congress that to really truly have access to health care, you need coverage, you need insurance, you need affordable quality coverage, and not just a tax credit, and not just the ability to buy a service if you have all the money in the world.
Great. Thank you so much, Lucas. Other questions?
Meg, this is Bruce Segal from the Citizens of Charity in New York.
Oh, hi, Bruce.
Hi. I heard a little disturbing news regarding the Bridge Act, that it wasn't on Paul Ryan's list of important legislation. That could have been a misquote, but are we sure that I heard your earlier points about all the sponsors you're trying to get, but I just want to make sure there's a connection between that and actually being brought up on as part of Ryan's own priorities.
Hi, Bruce. It's Laura. Yes. So Paul Ryan has come out on record before saying, and actually in the town hall that happened, I think, late last year in December, sounding very sympathetic to DACA recipients. I think the reality was that the Bridge Act, when it was introduced, was very much a messaging bill that has actually turned into a bill that has potential with especially with the administration, the leaked executive order. I think also that Paul Ryan has a lot on his plate, especially also like with healthcare. But I don't, I haven't seen anything where he has said that DACA isn't, or that the Bridge Act isn't top priority for him. But that also goes to show that we do need to put pressure to make it a priority for him, because just because nothing has happened yet doesn't mean that nothing will happen. So I hope that clarifies and answers your question, Bruce.
Okay, thanks.
Oh, yeah, so just to add, Sally Ann, who was just on the call, who's from Wisconsin, could definitely pressure Paul Ryan. Thank you, Marge. Our senior lobbyist, Sister Marge Clark, just shared that. Thank you.
One of the things about Paul Ryan, and I just got a communication today about it, his phone, you can't get through on the telephone. His email is like full. It just seems like he's quite inaccessible. So now they're recommending we send him postcards. And he's the Speaker of the House, so as Speaker of the House, he should be listening to all of us, not just Wisconsinites.
I completely agree with you, Sister Sally, and I just have to advise against postcards, because we know that any mail, like physical mail that goes to Capitol Hill, could take up to 6 weeks. We're going to have to keep putting pressure on him, and if that means, having a prayer vigil outside his office to get his attention, that's what we're going to have to do, because it is unacceptable that he's not responding to people.
Sometimes what I've done, I have taken postcards directly to, like, Senator Biden's office, delivered them right here locally in Oshkosh, which is only 15 or so miles north of me. And then they send them like by diplomatic pouch, and it doesn't have to go through the U.S. mail.
That's a postcard drop-off or a petition drop-off is also a really great tool. Thanks for reminding us. All right, we have about 5 or 6 minutes left, so I just want to make sure that other people who may not have had a chance to ask their questions get a chance. So Any other questions for Lucas, Laura, or our grassroots Emma and Kat?
I think we're on. Meg, can you hear us now from Florida?
Florida, I can. I just was able to unmute you, Anne.
Okay, so Kip has a question for you.
So are we going to make any visits to local offices for the senators, even though their main offices aren't, in the Tampa Bay area? Is there plans to for Rubio and Nelson?
You are welcome to visit. I know that you've set up a meeting with Chris, and that's because at this point the state of play for both of these issues are really more in the House. However, please, you have access to our Leave Behind and of course our About Us then tomorrow. So please, if you have a chance, go do lit drop-offs at those in-district offices. Introduce yourself. Make that initial touch, okay? That's a great question, Kip. Thank you for asking.
You're welcome.
Any other questions?
It was very full out there.
Good. All right. Well, it sounds like everyone's ready. I will make sure tomorrow you will get a link with the recording of this webinar, the lobby planning sheet, and our About Network. Make sure you can open all your talking point and Leave Behind documents. You might have seen when I opened up the one that Lucas was referring to for the talking points, it says confidential. So I just cannot stress enough, please do not share that around, forward it to people who are not part of your lobby visit planning group, and certainly do not share that at a legislator's office. So thank you so much for that. And once again, just send us your notes so we know what has happened in the district, so that we can then bring those messages back up to the Hill and really show them that we have network members out in the field who are with us on these issues. You are really the power behind our lobby team, so thank you so much. And we're always available for checking in later, and especially debriefing, or if you want to chat with me about how to get more involved after the lobby visit, we'd love to hear from you. My grassroots mobilization associates are doing little cheers across the room. So thank you all so much, and blessings to you next week as you do this hard work. So thank you.
Bye. Thank you.
Stop.